Oh, hey. Um, I didn't have COVID. I had a little bit of food poisoning. So I had a little bit of food poisoning last video, and I feel a lot better now. What were we talking about? Is this thing on? I I can't see myself. This is a one of the very rare videos where I can't just make direct eye contact with myself on the live video feed. Um, there's a lot of comfort and reassurance in that. Uh, getting to see that like I'm in frame, getting to see that like my head's not being cut off. Um, and I know that if I go too high up, I'm gonna be out of frame. So it's like I don't know. I just gotta kind of like lean back, make it casual. So this is part 3. Parts 1 and 2 were in the previous video. I find a lot of value in creating things that flaunt my own inadequacies. Um, I I really like being able to see art that's not ashamed of being imperfect. That's not because there's beauty and there's quality and there's the skill that goes into making something, and into making something technically good, and I value that, and certainly even though there are elements of the things that I make that are sloppy, I do of course put in the work and the time in other areas that I hope provide the value that make it worth the time that you spend with me. Um, and still on the other paw, there's the the uh, the faults and the messiness. To, that to me is very valuable because I really like feeling inspired, and I like inspiring others, and I like inspiring confidence in others. And this meshes with my own self-esteem issues a little bit. But hear me out. Being like the type of person that I am, a lot of people, I imagine, see me as a little bit of a failure, a little bit of a uh, cringe fail girl, like, and for me to then maintain that image and make something that actually impresses them in some way, I feel like it creates this implicit messaging of, look, if you know me personally, you know what a mess I am, and yet, so like if I can do it, you could do it. You could, and imagine, you in all the ways that you're better and smarter than me, you could probably do it better. You could probably like if I can just stumble into like programming a game or writing a story or whatever. I want you to look at what I'm doing and see, like not so much like a behind the scenes thing, but I like it being built into the things that I make, of like this kind of improvisational, low effort, uh, 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 what's the word? Something of thought. Ooh, I can't think of the phrase right now. Um, so I don't know. It's a little bit in this present moment. I am working actively to try and still deal with how I grew up viewing art as like this amazing, unapproachable thing of like, because I mean that's not like really necessarily a fault of mine. Like, you see a beautiful painting and you kind of got to think like, you don't really know how that happened. You don't know how it's possible for someone to commit to making something and for it to turn out so done, and such a, like, to see the final product and to just think like, I couldn't make that. um and and that's hell. That's not really doing yourself a favor, and it's not doing the artist a favor, and it's like, to not have any of the understanding or thought to how much, and not and because there's making the thing itself, and there's all of the things that came before it that went into shaping the artist's skills to that they practiced, like the thing of like, you commission something from an artist and you pay a whole bunch of money for it, and it's like, why do I have to pay so much money for it? It took you like 2 hours to make it, and it's like, well, yeah, but it took them like 300 hours to learn how to make it in 2 hours, um so I've never held the microphone before. It's interesting. Um, my head's getting cut off by the top of the frame. I just fucking know it. I don't like that because then you can't see the top of my head and my beautiful hair. I'm quite proud of. I grew it myself, but that's not, and that doesn't inherently make it better. Like, if store bought is fine. Um, uh, I so I watched one by Cheesy HFJ's Object Show 1, and I just want to talk about my feelings about it. I I'm glad that I've had some long conversations with loved ones who have also been watching one at my recommendation, and that helped me kind of put some of my thoughts in order. So hopefully this is structured slightly. So, one, spoilers. Seriously, seriously, seriously. I really do recommend one, if you feel like watching a cool artsy YouTube cartoon. Um, but anyway, fuck, how do I even talk about this? An object show is a sort of genre or medium almost. No, it's a genre. A category of like YouTube cartoon where it's animated in a very basic way. You just make some assets for the characters, and each character is a different object, and they and so you it's a game show. It's like Total Drama Island game show, uh, with viewer YouTube audience gets to vote. Like so like each episode, the host comes up with a challenge for the object characters to compete in, and then a few of the losing contestants get put up for elimination, and the audience votes on who they want to get eliminated. And then next episode, that character is gone. Uh, so it's this interesting blend of like, you have to make and animate the episode, you have to write the episode, it's written out, but then there's a little element of audience, live interaction. Uh, so that's fun, and it can pull in numbers, because you want to vote for your characters that you like to stay in and get more episodes. So it plays on that feeling of kinship that audiences feel with characters. And then it's also very easy, like I said, to animate. It's basically almost as easy as an animation project could be. But that said, it's still an animation project. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes know-how, it takes coordinating a team of people if you're going to have different voice actors and animators helping out. And but still, it's easy enough that you see a lot of these object shows getting made. And Cheesy HFJ's 1 exists to take advantage of those facts. It plays with all of those conventions, all these things that are just kind of taken for granted as like, oh, we just do this because this is what all the other object shows do, and this is what works, and we see why it works, why this generates numbers, why this gets viewers, why it retains viewers, and and so where you could very much see, and I don't watch a ton of object shows, so I'm not judging any of them like specifically when I say this. I've really only ever watched Carrie KH's object shows and 1. Those are the only like ones that I've watched. But it's very easy to imagine that like 1 could just be motivated by the numbers that you could get, and so like there might be a trend away from making something innovative and interesting, and just kind of trying to make something for getting an audience and for getting views, and and um and 1 is incredibly interesting to me. um Small detour about Carrie KH's object shows. Carrie KH, I think, is pretty much the original object show creator. I'm like 99% sure he like made the first one pretty much, uh, as inspired by Total Drama Island, but like that one didn't have like live voting, and I don't know. I'm not a object show historian, but I did watch, and over the years it has been there's been lessons like learned the hard way, sort of, about managing an audience, and then because like I mean managing an audience is hard. um Nobody comes into this earth and knowing how to do it right. And then for added challenge, object shows audiences are children, so you're not just managing a massive mob of people that you know that just want content, but people who are children, and and so dealing with expectations and how to like there was a lot of room for growth, for both the creator to kind of learn how to deal with managing such a large audience, um, in relation to their own life and their own emotional well-being. Like if you if you just take like a few months between episodes not making anything, it's like the children will be upset, and like it's not quite enough to just say like, hey, you guys got to understand, like I'm a person, and all that, like um because you're communicating with children, and so there's like you kind of have to do the heavy lifting of explaining or and um but and it's also it's a great opportunity to get to try and teach a fandom how to behave respectfully, and how to treat each other well, and how to um just, you know, like how to be nice, how to be just how, like, you know, like fucking all fandoms struggle with this anyway, like, so um so I'm explaining all this because I think all of these factors play into the things that one uh is about, like in kind of a bigger sense, is about the relationship between creator and audience. And now let me go ahead and explain why by summarizing one a little bit. So the first thing that sets one apart from other object shows is that the characters have a history and have a life and have a sort of psychology that existed before the show started. As they get kidnapped from their regular life, they just get teleported out of thin air to some strange dimension where they're being forced to play in a object show competition, and they react to things with a sort of sense of realism that is understandably missing from the other object shows, because it's just a kids show, and it's like we're not here for that. We're here for the fun competition and challenges, and to vote for our favorite characters and stuff, like um which is, it's not a terribly difficult thing to do, to come in, but I think it's a perfect, I think object shows were a perfect category for this type of deconstructive series, to come in and just do slightly more than what other object shows are doing. Be slightly different, you know, write a little bit more in advance, think a little bit ahead, uh, try to do something different, uh, and I think it doesn't just do that. I think it does that, but then inside of those actions is so much like purposeful meaning and direction. Uh, but I digress. The host of one presents himself as invisible and like all powerful, and really really bad at hosting an object show, um, which which to me just kind of makes sense, as like, if anybody can make an object show, if it doesn't require a ton of effort, then someone who's bad at it can do it. And let's see. I think I'm going to mix my analysis in with my synopsis so that I don't have to backtrack and go over this twice. So again, I really actually recommend watching one first. I really really do. It's 2 seasons. I'll have a link in the description. Go check it out. So, what interests me on like kind of a meta analysis layer is that one begins by playing with the anxiety that a person might have about if they were to try to create art. That like, what's, hold on, let me make sure I'm actually Still recording. Okay, cool. Um, because, what if you try to make something and it's bad? What if, what if it's extremely obvious to everyone that you're bad at this? What, like, kind of makes you think like, oh no, should I try? Like, if I try and it's bad, wouldn't I be like so embarrassed that I might never try again? Like, um, and are you and so to me, kind of the through line of one. Since you've already watched the series, I can just talk about this. Is that you know in most cases, creating bad art isn't a crime. There shouldn't be consequences for it. The worst case scenario is like that the characters that you've created and written will come to life and try to kill you, but that almost never happens in real life. And because the characters suffer throughout one, they suffer like badly, and they react to it in a somewhat realistic, like psychologically reasonable way of like, you know, not wanting to put up with physical pain and mental pain and being taken away from their lives. And sorry, I'm such a mess. What am I thinking about? Let me lean back. So like, what I really love about one as a whole is that it's it brings out those anxieties in a viewer, um and and I think like the Venn diagram of like people who would potentially want to make object shows, like that is a circle within the circle of people who watch object shows, and a majority of those are children. So like it just and the fact that one is uploaded to YouTube, which is where object shows take place, all object shows take place. It's like if someone made like a dystopian Lynchian fucking Sesame Street and it aired on the same channel as Sesame Street. Like that it's who's watching this, and for one to take advantage of that so beautifully to communicate a message, several messages really, messages about understanding like that the creators of, and the hosts are just people too, that they're just as fallible, but that like that they're just doing it because the option is there sometimes. Like it means a lot to me that the host of one is a bit of a fuck up with really weak motivation, and I don't mean that as like a problem with the writing. I mean the character is written as is well written as a character with poor motivations, with with a lack of very deep motivation, and and uh, and the story ends. Also, I apologize to the all object show fandoms if somehow this video like gets watched by anybody. I have to apologize. Like I don't do really deep dives. I haven't watched other people's analysis videos. All I've done is I've watched one, and like I talked to a couple friends about it and gave them my theories. I heard their theories. So uh I don't know what's already obvious, what's already been discussed to death, and so like sorry Sorry about that. But I think it's fantastic that it the premise and throughout pulls at the emotions of like of look at all these object shows that get made. Some of them are sloppy, some of them are poorly made. Some people don't know how to come up with good, interesting challenges. Some people don't know how to motivate a just how to motivate like contestants into like because people get motivated, but like just you could slap on like, oh, there's a really 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 great prize, so you should try to do whatever it is that I come up with. But then like that can only get you so far if you don't come up with challenges that are intrinsically like motivating and interesting and get you maybe emotionally invested as well, which pulls towards which I'm drawing towards like a point that I want to make about how one ends. Because if one starts with the putting that on full display of like, look at a shitty object show host, look at how bad he is at this, look at how low effort it is, that like, oh, he's just going through all the motions of like being like, I guess this is the thing that we do, this is we gotta make all these OCs and we gotta give them really really lazy uncreative names, and I gotta come up with challenges. Oh, I didn't think this far ahead, oh no. um so it starts by kind of creating this feeling in the viewer of like, oh, I guess if I were to make an object show, I wouldn't want to be like that guy. I'd want to do better than that guy. I could do better than that guy. And then one ends with the death of that guy, and it ends it because the themes of like psychological pain and devastation, and it ends on on an not just an uncertain note. It ends in a situation that is desperate. It ends on in a situation that has been so deviously constructed to feel like you are so trapped, that all the characters are trapped in this state now that could theoretically only create pain or suffering or death. And it ends in a state that is a puzzle. It ends in a state that that says that if you have felt emotionally invested in the well-being of these characters at all, then by the end of the series, you're maybe going to feel a little bit devastated inside. To, and and one of the characters, essentially the protagonist, Liam, ends in a position to literally try that like all he can do is to try to learn how to make an object show, how to animate, not even an object show necessarily, but just how to tell a story, how to animate a story, how to create something yourself, as the only way that he could potentially at least help the other characters get out of this hell. um he would have to learn the tools of the craft to make an ending himself, to make a happy ending, which, if that's how the viewers feel, they are also motivated, that if they don't want to just squirm indefinitely with this feeling of, oh, I guess it's just a bad, I guess it's just a sad ending then, if they never get to know what happens next. So I see the results of that. I haven't like read any fanfic myself, but I see, one ends up with a fandom that is very motivated towards creating and writing and animating and coming up with their own, like, if you want to see a happy ending to one, you're gonna have to write it yourself, basically. Um, which is so beautiful to me, to to go from, oh, should I feel kind of anxious about making art? What if it's bad art? To look at what art can do, look at what it can make you feel, and look at what it can make you feel motivated to do in order to do better than the guy who came before you. To Because that's just all that's at the heart of one, is in the most loving way possible. Like, it's not tearing down other creators for doing worse than it. It's not vilifying them. You're not doing something evil by starting a project that people get invested in and then dropping it. Like people might get kind of devastated because people get emotionally invested in, we're people, we get emotionally invested in fucking objects, in like the shit we see laying around in our room. Sorry, autism experience. But so art can have a very profound effect on people, and I think one walks a wonderfully delicate line of making you feel uncomfortable, making you feel uncertain, making you feel strange, but that it ends in such a place that to me is so definitively dreadful and surreal, and but yet motivating. It says, like, to and and so, by that ending, it washes away that feeling of, well, what if I make something and it's bad, with, what if there are stakes? like 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 it's not just that, like, oh, maybe I kind of want to make something, but what if it's bad? It's like, no, you have to make something. You kind of have to, because if you don't, who else will? And and I love that. So that's all of my thoughts on one. Thank you for listening. Hey, so really quick, I completely slipped my mind. I wanted to talk about, um, and this is truly will only make any amount of sense to you if you've watched one, I think. But um, so I talked so much at length about the factors of one that make it encouraging to create art. But there's also another really cool facet of it, which serves as sort of a warning, using all of the horror and dread that it has compounded over the series, of having no other attachments, having nothing else that you care about and are passionate about or live for, to only commit yourself to creating this thing for this one purpose, that, like, maybe it's a noble purpose, but if it's all you have, you are gonna end up in the same boat as Aerie. Like, if you've seen one, you would know that Liam ends in a position that he could potentially, he'll figure out how the controls work, how to get the other objects back to their actual worlds and back to their lives. But not him. He's kind of stuck in a really weird place, that his options are basically, he's there's this afterlife situation where there's a radio that has, like, infinitely many stations with, like, a 30 long digit string for, like, each different station, and you go to that station and you lift the antenna, it takes you to a different dimension, and one of those dimensions is the one where Aerie gets to be the host and has access to a computer that lets him teleport other objects onto a tiny planet. And Liam goes there using the specific number, but then he loses that number. And so he's stuck in that dimension. If you die, you return to the place with the radio, but there's so many other dimensions that, like, most of them are bad and you don't want to go to them, and you maybe don't want to commit yourself to a life of exploring those. uh so like at least the one Liam is in is relatively like safe, but like he'll just be there alone forever if he successfully sends everyone back to their home dimensions. So like his option, like assuming he doesn't want to kill himself and just be subject to the infinite randomness of trying different radio stations, he'll just be in that world where he just has to choose every day to not succumb to the only interesting and socially like the only social thing is to summon more objects, uh, to whisk them away from their lives and to just have focused so single-mindedly on this one goal to do better than the guy before you that you're going to become exactly as bad as the guy who came before you. And that's a very worthwhile warning to include and to talk about. There's some interesting pieces too that I talked to my lovely partner about. They really presented the whole idea of this warning, and the single-mindedness, and or rather the lack of other motivation that Liam has. Like when characters go to the afterlife rainbow room, other characters see things that that show what they're motivated towards, or what like an afterlife might look like for them. Like they'll see like their obsessions or their dead family members or what have you, but not Liam. Liam just sees endless rainbow void. He doesn't have anything else that he's interested in. He's not particularly motivated to get back to the real world, to get out of this game show. And I guess this might be a weirdly ambiguous note to end on, but I'm 100% certain, so I don't think it's ambiguous. The episode called Just Tripped, he is off screen. It's slightly suspicious that he trips and falls onto the stump that would keep him in the game longer, while everyone else is on his side is saying like, we want to be taken home, we're protesting, we're not going to play the game. And off screen he trips and falls and lands on it, and it's like, I think after finishing the series and digesting it and hearing other people's thoughts on it, like he lacks relationships from his life that would lead him to want to leave. He doesn't have motivation to leave. And to take that small action of just tripping and landing in the thing, like I think that's very interesting. I think it's very much it's ambiguous on purpose. It's suspicious on purpose. The episode is titled after that moment, so I think there's more to think about that moment than maybe most people would realize maybe at first. But it fits so well as a puzzle piece into understanding what's going on with Liam. Okay, that's my one analysis. That's our yeah. I couldn't leave this out, and I forgot about it. It just slipped my mind. So yeah. Mwah. Kisses. Bye. So there's something about like gatekeeping the competitiveness of art and science. I'm trying to still use words that make it more specific, but I'm kind of talking about everything now. Um, but like I'm kind of talking about like academia versus like self study, or classical music versus hip hop. It is a really good one because classical music is still competitive. You still want to make art that's, you still want to make music that's good, and you want to make music that is therefore better than what other people have made in the past, and it's, you know, better than what other people are making. And I say better, and the word better is doing a lot of work there because uh, you know, better depends on the standards to which you are creating the thing. You know, what matters to you more? What things are you willing to sacrifice and leave to the side because it doesn't matter to you? You think, I want to be better in this way. This is the thing that I find lacking in the art that I see around me, and this is what I want to contribute, that maybe only I can contribute, is my unique view or talent or whatever. um, and like the classical music world sets it with all these like rules and certain ways that you have to come into it, that you will be laughed out of if you haven't been studying the history and the technical mechanics of in a certain educational setting that will provide you with like the knowledge that will allow you to not be like reinventing the wheel basically. And I'm really not. And so like I don't know, basically the idea that I get from like rap is that it gets to be competitive in a way that is just more direct and immediate. Like, you know, it's like I if you just come in as a newcomer, you prove yourself by the skill that you show off. Like you don't have to have like the right degrees or the right teachers or the right fields of study. It's just, can you do it? Can you do it better? Can you do it impressively? And and I don't know. I definitely skew more towards that in my art philosophy of but I'm not really saying necessarily that therefore like one is better than the other in every way, but there you know, it's not the same. There are ways that this kind of like rule setting like is, you know, it's got its benefits, it's got its detriments, whatever. Um, but oh, I have no idea where I'm going now. Let me think. Warts and all. So generally, what changes between those two kind of different methods that I've butchered and skewered into like these little condensed binary paths of one or the other is that is the participants, it is the crowd that it draws in as the creators, as the people who are allowed to play in this medium. Because of course, like, I think outsiders can make classical art, but it's just that the ground is tilted, you know, that you're discouraged from participating and competing because everything about it says you need to have been practicing for longer, you need to have been studying for longer, with classical music, as opposed to like rap and hip hop being so much more there's kind of an emotional barrier, I suppose, to if you have to be able to be told that what you're making is bad, that you're bad at what you're doing, and to be confronted with that kind of feedback in an art form that is very happy to be openly competitive and honest and emotionally like not holding back. Like, it's so iterative, it's so, you welcome in new voices every day. Like, the bar to entry is lower, and I mean that in the best way possible. Like, it's faster. Like, the feedback cycle is faster. The and it's unreal. It's unreal even thinking about like trying, like, me as like someone who's not knowledgeable in these things and is not an expert, but like even I can see that, like, I can see why and how these things like separate people to the point where like some people are like, oh, hip hop, that's not even really music. That's hip hop. That's not art. That's just people talking fast and doing uh, drugs or whatever, gang violence. Uh, and then on the other side being like, classical music is for bitches. Um, that like, I don't know. They and I'm not and again I prefaced that even, but I'll bookend it by saying again, like, I'm not really a music nerd. Really fucking not. So like, I'm just an art nerd, and and uh and I am, and I don't gel well with school or higher education um as a concept. I do function quite well in a school environment, but I don't like it. And what I do like is, I don't know, I guess just for me, like, I have my heroes, I have my inspirations, I have people who I think of as ancestors, even though I have no relation to them, who I see making art that speaks to me so deeply for what they're doing, for being funny and for being creative and interesting, um and I've got my unique perspective, and I thank all deities that I value unique perspective more than like other things, because if I were to view things in like such a strictly competitive sense of like, I think definitely growing up, like, I viewed humor as like this thing of like, you need to watch as much as you can of, in order to develop a modern sense of humor, to keep up with what people find funny, and to like be able to imitate jokes and styles of humor that will make people laugh. Um, but then ultimately, what I realized was that I was learning the techniques, and that those can kind of transcend time, because like, as long as you can hit somebody with something unexpected but joyous, and you can make them laugh, even if, like me, you're not on TikTok. That's why this section is about Chibli. Uh, my One of my current favorite streamers to watch, and just to think about, is that he is very funny. And one thing I think I know about him is that he's a TikTok kid. You know, like, he grows up in the fires of the rapid fire thing that happens in that environment, like, where, like, I basically, I like how, you know, there was an era where, like, very early internet, where like memes hadn't even really been named yet, or thought of as memes, and then memes started existing as and had a life cycle that was decently long. But then social media did this thing of making it faster and faster, because so many people were so quick to iterate on the memes in so many different directions all at once, that basically a new meme could be come up with and then die a week later because you're already tired of seeing it, which does such a weird thing to the economy. If because not everyone gets tired of it right away. Not everyone even had a chance to see it yet. And TikTok scares me because it's even faster than anything I grew up with. Like, I don't know how many things are happening on TikTok at once. I don't know how many jokes. I don't know how many things, like, and I used to get kind of anxious about that. I used to think, like, if I'm not keeping up with that, am I like falling behind in a way that is making me useless in the ways that I thought I used to be valuable? Um, but I'm happier now that I'm thinking, like not everyone, for one, not everyone is going to be in that space. But then for two, if the people in that space are surrounded by that all the time, that speed and that whatever it does to your sense of humor, or your sense of art appreciation, you still, like, you see it so much that I think I think having like a slower mentality towards things would just end up being refreshing. Like a nice change of pace. Literally a change of pace. So I'm like, hell yeah, hell yeah. And then also, just on the topic of like unique things that you provide just by virtue of being your unique self, is that you get to like the things that you like. And I have a lot of friends who, like, I'll recommend shows to, or not even recommend. I just love talking about the things that I like, and they'll tell me, like, I just won't have time to watch that, or I think our other friends would probably hate this show. And um and uh I've been growing a lot happier about my position in the world as being me, the person who likes the things that I like and sees the value in the things that I see value in, and that I don't have to get everyone on that same page. I don't have to get everyone to read Homestuck in order for me to share the values that I have gained from enjoying Homestuck. And that's great, because otherwise, like, I would just be fighting this uphill battle with everyone I ever meet of saying, like, look, you're really not gonna get me if you don't read Homestuck, you know? And I don't say that disparagingly, because that's literally, like, that's fandom brain. That's like I've been in that. I was that person like, I think that contributed a lot to my periods of isolation, that I thought, like, I don't know how to handle talking to people if it's literally non-negotiable for me that I need people to like the media that I like. But also understanding that that's not a reasonable ask, yet I don't know, like, um and 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 of course, like, what ends up working actually is just the middle ground of, as long as you can tolerate that we have different opinions, that I like different things than you, then we're gonna get along. If I'm capable of being okay with it, then we are capable of getting along. And I think that's important to me. Also, that's something think that Homestuck is about explicitly. It's about the tragedy of the haters and the lovers not getting along. Watch my video on Chair Obsessed. Um, God, I'm in a really good mood now. Like I knew I needed to make this part two, but like I wasn't sure how I was gonna do it. Um, but I've done it. So thank you for watching. Um, is there anything else that I want to talk about? Do I have any other notes or I don't know, probably not. Here's a drawing of my OC Fate. Do you like her? I don't know if you can see. Hold on.